Hiya, my name is Fi Munro, and today I'm joined by Claire Birbeck, and we're going to talk about a technique that Claire does, which is called body stress release. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Fi.
So this is the first live interview I've done on Facebook. So if you have any questions, please just write them in the comments below and we should see them. So Claire, can you tell us a little bit about what body stress release is?
Yeah, so body stress release is a complementary health technique, and we don't treat or diagnose any illness or condition. We're just concerned with locating and releasing tension in the body. So we're all accumulating tension on a daily basis through really three different kinds of stress. So this could be mechanical stress, which is anything physical we put our bodies through. So things like repeated poor posture, repetitive strain, heavy lifting, any falls or accidents that we've had in the past. All mental and emotional stress gets stored in our bodies. So even if you just think about how your body tenses when you're feeling nervous or anxious or get a fright, that all gets stored over time. And then there's chemical stress as well. So that could be from anything inhaled, like strong scents or perfumes, things we ingest, and also things absorbed through the skin. So a lot of our toiletries and cosmetics are filled with chemicals that can cause us chemical stress. So our bodies are designed to deal with stress in a positive way, but sometimes we find ourselves overloaded. And when we reach overload, the body stores stress in the muscles. And that's when we start experiencing pain and discomfort. Muscles become more and more tense. They start putting pressure on nerves, which disturbs the communication system in the body. And the body isn't then able to naturally self-heal as it's designed to do. So that's our job, is to locate these lines of tension, release it, and open up communication again and allow the body to self-heal.
Brilliant. Well, I've come for a few sessions, and I was a bit not skeptical, but I didn't know what it was beforehand. So I'll talk a bit about that later, but I wonder, could you tell people what a typical body stress release session would look like?
So you would come in, tell me your main reason for coming. I would take a full case history, things like operations, any falls or accidents from the past, even as a toddler, any breaks or fractures, any sort of major emotional or trauma, emotional stress or trauma that you've been through, and then just go right through the body from head to toe to find out where you have pain or discomfort, or even things like pins and needles, heartburn, headaches, all that sort of thing. And then you're lowered down on our specially designed high-low couch, which you can see behind me. So instead of climbing awkwardly onto a table, you get lowered down, which is great for anybody in real pain or reduced mobility. And then I'll carry out a series of stress tests, which is just like a pressure test, mostly along the length of the spine, to locate the lines of tension. And we just release it using the thumbs with a gentle but precise impulse into the muscle.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I've come for now, is it 4 sessions, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, I met Claire at a Dundee therapy event, and I was watching Claire practicing this technique on a lady, and I was really intrigued at how Claire would be pushing along the spine, like she says, and then looking at the person's feet, and then going back to the spine. Can you talk about what you're doing with the person's feet when you do this?
Yeah, so we use the feet, we use your body as a biofeedback mechanism. So if there's tension in the area that I've tested, there'll be a tightening of muscles, like an irritation within the body. And I view that by moving the feet in a particular way. And when that happens, one leg actually shortens by a few mil for a few seconds. And that's what we're viewing. So it tells me exactly where the tension is in your body. It's always very specific to the client.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So my experience when I went along was I talked about my background. So obviously there was extensive surgery I'd had, but I'd also had a few injuries in the past. Like I trapped my hands in a sander and I'd broken my nose and stuff. And then, like you say, you're lowered down on the bed, which is just amazing. It's a really nice sensation actually getting lowered down, and then you do the pressure points, and it's really gentle. And I remember at the start you would barely touch me, and now we're on to the fourth session, it's a bit deeper. And then I would go home and I was like, well, you know, she barely touched me, what can I expect? But actually just felt, you know, really calm, really relaxed, slept great. Every time I tend to have to do nothing the next day to just, it's like my body is releasing. Yeah. And we were chatting yesterday, I've had a few strange things happen. So I was convinced that our sessions would actually all be about my cancer surgery, but a few people watching will know that, like I say, my hands were trapped in a sandra, and I've not had feeling in 3 fingers in my left hand since I was 22, and actually I now get pins and needles in those fingers since coming to your sessions. So for me that was a bit like, oh wow, Claire actually is doing something in my body that I hadn't expected, and now even I'm aware if I'm touching something with these fingers, whereas before I wouldn't have. So it definitely does something, and I'm still like amazed by it, which is why I asked you to do the talk. Can you talk about why you got into BSR?
Yeah, so I first went to BSR while on holiday in Cape Town visiting family. My family, because the technique originated in South Africa, my family have been going for many, many years, probably about 14 now, and are huge fans of the technique. So every so often when I was on holiday, they'd book me in for a session. And like you, I wasn't entirely convinced. I sort of thought, well, the practitioner hardly touched me. She kept moving my feet. What's that all about? I don't really get it. But then a few years later, my back seized up completely at work one day, and I decided to look up a practitioner in Scotland. I went for the 3 sessions, my back was a lot better, and I decided to carry on with monthly maintenance. And at the time, I had been struggling with severe heartburn and acid reflux. I'd gone through 5 years of tests, medical tests, they couldn't find anything wrong. But the pain was getting just more and more intense. I could hardly breathe at times. It was like I had an elephant on my chest. And I was taking a lot of medication. And I found that within 6 months of going for monthly sessions, those symptoms had reduced greatly. And after 9 months, they disappeared completely. And I didn't have to take any medication. I also didn't have daily headaches, which I'd had since my 20s. And I'd always really struggled with IBS symptoms right from a teen, and they all disappeared completely. So with that, I was really sold on the technique, carried on going, noticed my stress levels really reduced. I was coping with more in life generally, and just found it great. And then decided I wanted to bring it to Dundee and let other people experience it, and that was it.
And how long have you been working as a practitioner with body stress?
Just over a year now.
And sorry, I missed that, sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying it's been amazing, been a life-changing experience.
How many practitioners are there in Scotland?
There's 3 of us in Scotland. So there's myself in Dundee, there's Ian Suter in Letham, and Janella in Aberdeen.
So it's quite rare over here, and the reason I highlight that is because that might be why people haven't heard of it, and again why I wanted to do the video, because I know it is much more common, like you say, in South Africa where it originated, and slowly moving over to the UK and other countries. Yeah,
so there are practitioners all over the world. It's absolutely massive in Holland. And then there's practitioners in places like Hawaii, Japan, Mauritius, Iceland. So it is slowly spreading around the world.
It's amazing. I tell everyone about it, but I find it really hard to describe what it is, because people are like, oh, is that like an osteopath? And it isn't. They're like, is it like physio? No, it's totally unique, isn't it?
It really is.
And can you talk a little bit about how it came to be developed in South Africa? So I've read a little bit about that, but I think people will be interested in that.
Yeah, so it really is a great story. So it's all began in 1949 when a young boy called Ewald Megacy fell from a tree. He was 5 years old. He was unconscious for a week. And when he woke, he had excruciating pains in his legs and lower back. And these pains continued over the years and continued to worsen. They couldn't find anything wrong with him. Stress and tension can't be seen on x-rays or scans. And he ended up having breathing difficulties and severe allergies and all sorts of things. And it wasn't until he was, I think, in his 20s or early 30s, he started seeing a chiropractor, and was getting great results from that. He would have relief for a few hours after a session. So with that, he and his wife, Gail, decided to travel to America to train as chiropractors. And they hoped to find something that had been missed and to find, get some relief from his worsening condition. When they were in America, they met a retired chiropractor called Dr. Richard van Rumpt, who had a completely different approach. So when they came back to South Africa, they set up a practice using Dr. van Rumpt's alternative methods. And they started working on clients together and learned that they weren't dealing with bone misalignments, but rather lines of tension across any structure in the body. They did a lot of research, and then their technique was so far removed from chiropractic, they renamed it body stress release, and that's really how it started and then spread. And their practice was so popular that they realized they needed more practitioners. They opened up an academy, and it really just went from there.
Yeah, I love that story. It's just amazing, yeah. And it shows how it is a complementary therapy, and it works in ways that other treatments don't. Sorry. Do you have any stories of people you've worked with that you could share in a confidential, anonymous way, but anything you've witnessed as a practitioner?
This might take a while, and they come back the next session and the pain is completely gone. You know, it's just so incredible, and everybody's body responds so differently.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things for me I found really interesting was we talk a lot about how I've experienced a lot of whiplash, and so I have a lot of pain in my neck, and I hadn't ever associated it as whiplash. So for people watching, I've had quite a few head bumps, I broke my nose a few times, and I've fallen quite a few times, and I've also been in a few car bumps. And I guess, is that one of the most common things you see, is this kind of neck pain and tension?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't associate the sort of build-up with it all. So, you know, it can start with a car accident, and then there's repeated poor posture. We put so much strain on our necks. And these days, everybody's got their head buried in a phone or a tablet. You know, and that continual poor posture just puts so much strain. And it's all these things that add up. And then, of course, all our mental and emotional stress tends to get held in our neck as well. So it's never just one incident. It's a build-up over the years of lots of different things. So yeah, I would say the majority of people really struggle with a lot of neck tension. And that can be the cause of headaches and migraines as well.
Because they're holding all that. I was amazed after the first session. My neck was so sore, and it does get a bit better every time I'm releasing it. And it interests me because that relates to yoga, particularly how BSR works with the spine and all the tension you hold. So for me, teaching yoga, it makes sense to me, I guess, how that can impact the whole body and how we store that tension. And I definitely see in a yoga class, that's where people get the most pain when they're lying down after yoga, because they are releasing all that kind of stress around there. I wonder, because there's so few practitioners in the UK and a lot of people watching will be in the UK, would you have any advice for anybody watching who maybe couldn't see a BSR practitioner?
That's
sorry.
Yeah, that is tough, because BSR is so individual, and there's really nothing like it.
Do you think, so I know we do the neck exercise you showed me, is that something that people could do at home?
Absolutely, yeah.
Could you demonstrate? Sorry, Claire.
There's just a little sort of self-help exercise that you can do at night time. It's really good to do just before you go to bed. Sends a little signal to the brain to relax the neck muscles while you're sleeping. And you really, I'll turn around and show you, but you're really just starting at the bony bump at the back of your neck, just here. Using your fingertips, just do little circular rubs either side of that bony bump, and move out for 4. So you're almost coming around to the sort of middle of your neck. You move up 1, come out for 4 again, and keep traveling up a finger space and out for 4 until you reach the base of the skull. By that point, you're sort of just underneath your earlobes, and then work doing circular rubs down the side, right down to your collarbone. And you will feel that that's quite tight, and in certain spots can be quite sensitive. And over time, the tightness and sensitivity will reduce.
Yeah, I remember the first time I started doing it, I mean, it was painful for me, and though I was barely touching, I was like, oh, actually, I've got a lot of tension, and it does ease off over time. And now I feel that my shoulders are dropping, and there is more movement and flexibility in my neck. So it is releasing stuff, yeah.
And the interesting thing with your neck is why you would have had so much sort of sensitivity after the first session is your neck was so tight, muscles were then being released and taking pressure off nerves. Nerves start firing again, increase sensitivity for a few days. But that's possibly also why you're now getting feeling in your fingers, because the nerve pathways down the arms are opening up. So that's really fascinating.
I find it, it's quite mind-blowing actually how it works. And I do notice, because I think after the sessions, that pain in my back that I get is worse, and then it eases off, and over time it is getting better with each session. I think one last thing I wanted to chat about was when you start seeing a BSR practitioner, you see them 3 times quite quickly together. Could you talk a little bit about that, just for people who maybe off the back of this go and see a practitioner so they know that that is the usual process?
Yeah, so we always recommend 3 sessions over a 2-week period. You come on day 1, and then we recommend 1 3 days later. And the reason for that is we like to see how your body's responded and release a further layer of tension quite quickly. The pioneers of BSR, Gail and Ewald, have just worked out that that's the process that works best for the body. And then usually it's a week later for the 3rd one. Everybody responds differently. Usually people feel some benefit within the 3 sessions, but for some people it can take a little bit longer. So it's just about working out after that what's best for each person. You know, some people find that the pain that they've come with is gone, and that's all they wanted. Whereas others really see the benefit and want to carry on with monthly sessions or 6 to 8 weeks. For others, if there's a lot of tension that's been stored for a long time and it's taking that little bit longer to release, then they might choose to come once a week or once every 2 weeks at first, until they feel ready to leave it that little bit longer. But everybody is so different.
And I think that's important, because I think people can get quite nervous if a practitioner asks them to see them quite a few times. And just to make it clear that that is the normal process. And I definitely in those 2 weeks felt a lot of changes in my body, and pretty much I had to clear my diary because I just needed to rest and relax, which I never do. So it was actually really good for me just to stop and chill out. I guess I said that was the last thing, but I do have another question. Sorry, it was what sort of people, off the back of watching this, would you say BSR could help? So I know it covers a broad thing. So obviously a lot of people watching have cancer, but what sort of things could you work with? So for example, if someone had a severe bone break, or if just whatever you're thinking.
So BSR really is for everybody, right from infants to the elderly. So for babies struggling with colic or just constant crying, there could have been stress in the neck or lower back, as during the birth process. So it's great for babies, great for toddlers with growing pains, teens with sort of anxiety, peer pressure. I see everybody from people suffering with really bad headaches to back problems, sudden shoulder or knee pain. And a lot of people are just really in tune with their bodies and understand that they're under a lot of stress and tension and just want to keep on top of that these days.
I think so many people have stress in their life, don't they? So actually it does benefit everybody.
And people are becoming more and more aware of that, and how, debilitating it can be, and it can be the cause of a lot of the pain and discomfort we're in, especially if you've had a lot of medical tests and the doctors just can't find out what's wrong or why you're in that pain. It's often because of stress and tension held in the body.
Yeah, it's and it makes so much sense when you say it, actually, that we do store this, and if we have an injury in particular, we do tend to tense up that part of the body. And so it does make sense that actually to release that, and again going back to the yoga, that quite often can affect then other parts of the body, that kind of regurgitate. So it's your body as a system rather than just looking at maybe a neck injury or a shoulder injury.
And that's why in BSR we always test the entire body for stress, you know, not just the point of pain, because the cause could be something from another area entirely. Yeah. We always check absolutely everything, which is great.
It's amazing. I love it. I'm just going to check if we have any comments from anyone watching. Just hold on 2 seconds. It's taking forever to load. While I'm doing that, Claire, is there anything you want to add that we've maybe not covered that you would have liked to have had the opportunity to talk about?
It's just really how important it is to listen to our bodies, you know, and if you do feel pain in an area, don't ignore it. Don't wait for it to go away and hope that, you know, it'll disappear or take some painkillers, because that's just masking it. And the pain is warning messages from the body that you need to do something. And if you don't listen to it now, it'll just come back in other forms. So often, you know, people don't initially listen to lower back pain and they ignore it. So those muscles will get tighter and tighter and tighter, and we think it's gone away. But actually, that area is now just numb. And then you end up with referred pain down the back of your legs, like sciatica or knee pain. And it's usually originating from the lower back. So if we'd listened earlier on, you know, and dealt with it, we wouldn't then be really struggling with something else later. So just listen to your body.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Claire. I'm going to end the live chat now, and everyone watching, please, you know, share the video, or you can comment if you have any questions. I'll put a link up to Claire's page so you can get in touch with Claire as well. And thank you very much, Claire. Bye-bye.
Bye.